What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the brand new year. We are talking about one of the most incredible visual films I've ever seen in my whole life. It's Action Movie Anatomy 1917. We'll see you guys in just a second.
To Popcorn Talk.
That's how it...
News and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
I actually like this.
I like that. I can't hear myself at all. Can you hear yourself?
I can't hear you, and I love it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Welcome to 2020. We're back in studio. It's Action Movie Anatomy. We are live here talking about movies, talking about a movie that I don't think I would characterize as an action movie, but it definitely has a lot of action in it.
Really? You wouldn't?
I mean, it's not an action movie per se. You know, it's a war drama, but it definitely has action in it.
This is true. I actually do feel like this is an action movie.
Okay.
Even though I 100% agree with what you're saying. It does feel like a war drama, but there's so much action in this movie, and you're just like, the whole movie, you're just on the edge of your seat.
It's crazy.
It's a nonstop adrenaline thrill ride.
It's a slam bang action thriller.
Slam bang action thriller.
Yes, so we're back, guys. It's 2020. Did you have a nice New Year? I've talked to you about it, but I just for the sake of on air here,
Ben, thank you for asking.
How was your New Year's Eve, Andrew?
New Year's Eve, I did nothing.
Yeah.
I hung out with my girlfriend. We made dinner at home, and that was it.
I was in the same boat. I didn't do anything.
You hung out with my girlfriend?
Yeah. Not what I was getting at.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's weird. You get older. I kind of in the same boat as you, where you were telling me it's like New Year's has never really been like one of your favorite holidays to go out, celebrate, go crazy, go wild. And it's kind of a shit show here in LA.
Yeah.
There's lines everywhere. Everything's way overpriced.
Cops are absolutely intent on giving you a DUI.
Oh, they are.
So if you're going to go anywhere, it's like, if you're going to go somewhere far, it's like, I'm 100% Ubering. I'm not going to get anywhere near even having one drink and getting in my car.
No. I actually read an article where, because I was in Utah. I was in Utah visiting my family for Christmas, and they changed the legal limit of alcohol from 0.08 to 0.05 the prior year on New Year's Eve without telling anyone.
That is such horse shit.
So the law went into effect on the 31st. Or maybe I guess it went in effect at the 1st at midnight.
Yeah.
So they gave out an insane amount of DUIs that people were like 0.05.
Well, the crazy thing about it, and I should clarify what I was just saying a second ago, you should never be drinking and even questioning your car ever.
I'm at 0.05. Let's go.
But like, I'm 200 pounds plus. I'm 6'2", and if I have a beer and I do it in an hour and I get in my car, I'm legally in the limit to drive, no question. Like, I will digest and metabolize a beer, and there's no question. However, if you have that drink and immediately get in your car and get pulled over, there's a chance your blood alcohol level will be above.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen to many people I know where they get in their car right after having their first drink,
shot or something,
and they get screwed. And on New Year's Eve, and the same as the 4th of July, that is when, because they're trying to hit their quota of the number of DUIs they're going to have to give out, traffic tickets, things like that. It's all just a budget. The city and the federal, they have a budget they're trying to hit. This is how much money we need to make, so we need to give these things out, and that's what happens. And it's devastating. I've known a lot of people that have gotten DUIs doing this, and it's horrible.
Luckily for us, we are old people that just sat at home and did nothing.
And did absolutely nothing.
But one thing that we both did do over the last couple of weeks was watch 1917. I know that we both love this movie. We love war movies. We love movies that are shot brilliantly, beautifully, and this kind of sets the bar for maybe the most beautifully shot film ever.
Yeah, it is one of the more incredible films visually I've ever seen in my entire life. This film has not come out wide release yet, so those that are watching it in theaters, we'll see it next week more than likely. We know a lot of people that have seen it because obviously in the critics world, it's been out and about, and it is open in the larger markets, so you can go see it in theaters right now in Los Angeles and New York. This movie blew me away, and I didn't know what this movie was.
I didn't either.
Like, I had seen the trailer, we had talked about it, it looked incredible. I mean, I was so excited to watch it.
But no one talked, or no one spoke about, or no one tried to sell you on the idea of this is how this movie is shot.
Yeah.
Go see it because of that. They were like, go see this good movie. And then you're like sitting there, and you know, obviously you and I had heard it. Well, actually, let's do our preamble real quick. Let's say hello to everyone. Let's say thank you. We got a couple patrons to shout out. Patreon.com/teamaction. It has been amazing. Definitely a Christmas miracle, if you will.
Christmas miracle.
Influx, well, holiday miracle, we'll call it that. the influx of patrons we got over the last month throughout November and December all the way up to, I mean, now here we are in January, has just been amazing. And it's been so cool to see our Patreon grow. So, excuse me. If you guys are patrons already, thank you so very much. We have 2 patrons to shout out that are brand new, Jake Flagg and Aaron Spice. Big time salute to you two, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your support. And if you guys don't know what that is, go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Team Action. We put up a ton of content on there, behind the scenes Schmodown reviews, extra content that you and I just think of, funny, random stuff.
Yeah.
We do, some movie trailer reactions we're going to start doing on there, maybe. But I think the most important thing is to go to youtube.com/Action Industries and subscribe to that, because we are going to be starting and launching a new show on there. Just you and myself.
There is a new show coming. Big stuff happening in 2020 for Action Industries, for the band formerly known as Team Action. Andrew and I, we've done this show now for almost 5 years here, Action Movie Anatomy. This is the flagship show of the Action brand. We have done a show called The Action Guys over on Collider for the last year, and we've done these live streams and Schmodown things, and we are going to be doing something special and sweet and exciting on our channel. That channel will soon have its own flagship show, which we're very excited to announce. So go check out our episode of The Action Guys this week. It's only on the audio feed, I believe. But if you can go listen to that final episode of this old sort of regime, because so much new stuff happened at Collider.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened at Collider, a lot of things happened on Twitter, but for us, it's been really great. Our live streams have been through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of welcoming in the new year. You guys, you'll be able to hear that on the podcast feed. So go check that out and hear all the news and the updates. And today here on Action Movie Anatomy, we are talking about 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. Action movies on this show adhere to 4 basic rules. That's what we've been doing for years, and we'll shout them out just really quickly. Rule number 1: the hero always plays by their own rules. Not a whole lot of not a whole lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're watching a real true war movie, you don't get that, because that's not the way war works. That's not what happens, and usually you're following the soldiers, not the general making the decisions.
Right.
So I guess if you were the general, maybe, but not in this movie, not at all.
Yeah, rule number 2: the hero and the villain are always the smartest people, beings, things, what have you, in the room. I mean, the smartest guy in the room, in the sense that, spoiler alert, we're going to spoil this movie for you guys.
Yeah, this movie will be very spoiled.
The protagonists achieve the goal, so they are the smartest because they are able to outsmart and time, I guess, is the villain.
Time really is the villain, and it doesn't really feel like the Germans are. It doesn't feel like the Nazis really are the villain. They are just kind of, there's bad Germans throughout that you kind of run into, but for the most part,
and they're not Nazis in this movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're just, it's World War I, right?
Yeah, but
and they're Germans.
But is that Nazis?
Is that not?
I don't think that's Nazis.
Is it not yet?
That is unfortunately not Nazis.
They're not. Okay.
Yeah, because Hitler is 20 years later.
Well, I know that Hitler's that, but I wasn't sure if there was. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I mean, it's
excuse
a unique,
me.
it should be noted, because I think anybody watching may make the exact same mistake.
Right.
It's a rare occurrence to see a major World War I movie. There's not very many.
No,
World War
very
II
few.
is, and when you hear period piece war movie and you hear German, you immediately think Nazi, because why wouldn't you? That's what all the movies are made about.
Right, and they're wearing the same stuff that you see them in. I mean, they don't have the swastika, but like even the pilot that you run into. So my mistake there. But villain, it's got to be time. It just has to be time, and time's always the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, rule number 3, the movie is driven by a police, military, political, or mercenary figure. I mean, they are military. And rule number 4, the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion. There's a lot of exploding things in this movie. There are some crazy explosions in this movie. Visually, this is one of the most amazing films I've ever seen in my whole life.
100%.
I can think of almost no movie that has ever blown me away as much. And speaking of which, coming up today on the show, we are going to be talking about movies that blew our mind. We're each going to list 3 movies that absolutely blew us away. We're also going to be talking about. We changed the segment.
Yeah, we were gonna talk about kind of another director that's got like a one-hit wonder, something that they put out there that was just massive, and then they kind of fell off for a while, or maybe have still fallen off. And Sam Mendes, we all know him mainly from American Beauty. That's was kind of his one. And he also did Road to Perdition, which you and I love. We weren't really big fans of the James Bond films, but he's back. He's definitely back. And this movie hits you in all the right ways. It's beautiful to watch. It's very, very well directed. The acting is amazing. All of it from top to bottom. You look at it, and of course, with him winning Best Director at the Globes last night, you go, wow, Sam Mendes, he never really went away, but no one really looked at him the same way as they did when he made American Beauty.
Yeah, well, and I think it's also a testament to just how talented he is, because all these years later, he's still, it's not like people would say the name Sam Mendes and people are like, oh yeah, he used to be good. It's like, people would still say Sam Mendes, like, well, it's a movie by Sam Mendes. We need to watch this. We knew there was a war film coming out directed by Sam Mendes. We were excited.
We were very excited.
So the quality was there. So we're going to have a little bit more of a discussion about that. If you guys do want to follow along with anything that we're doing personally, because this year, 2020, this is the year of action. We are trying to build this brand as big as we can, and to do that, we need the support of all of you guys that watch and listen to the show. So if you're sitting here watching, you're thinking you haven't already done it, please click that subscribe button here on Popcorn Talk. Follow the show. Go ahead and follow at Andrew Guy, at Ben Bateman Media on all of our socials, Twitter and an Instagram, and Action Industries everywhere else. That's you can find our YouTube. Andrew mentioned we have a Patreon. Just trying to build it out, build it bigger and bigger. So please do that. I think we should get into our first segment on the show. This is a segment we do called Thesis Statement. This is your biggest, boldest thought about the movie, right? So you watch a movie and you think about, okay, when I talk about this movie at a party, when this movie comes up in a conversation with other respected film nerds, this is my point about the movie. This is the thing I'm going to say. The most important detail for me is this. The biggest, the greatest, the first, the only, rooted in hyperbole. What you got?
What I'm going to say is that this is the most beautifully a film has ever been shot. Ever. Now, it's not the most beautiful film I've ever seen.
Okay.
But it's the way that he actually shot it. So now when I watch it, I mean, it is amazing. But there are other movies that I also watch visually that just blow my mind completely, and I don't know if I can put this ahead of them, especially with the recency bias. But what I can say, and this is interesting because I went to go see this movie with my girlfriend, and she is not a movie buff at all, although she's becoming one, thank God.
Yeah.
And, she was telling me that it took her like maybe 30 minutes to kind of get into the movie. A little bit of a slow start, and there's a moment specifically when it kind of feels like you push the snowball over the hill and it starts to roll for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, for me, as soon as it started and they were sitting there and then you see the camera stand up with him, and I already knew what I was getting into with how this movie was shot, but I was immediately in because I was already just like, this is already beautiful.
Yeah.
Like even just the first shot of just them sitting there talking and then standing up with him, I was like, this is already beautiful. It's not shaky cam. It's clean. It's smooth. And it's engaging.
And mesmerizing.
And it's mesmerizing. And it's going to get more and more mesmerizing as more shit goes on in the movie. Because this is them sitting and talking and then standing up. And you're just like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
So then you think about the war scenes that are inevitably going to come. And I was just so excited. So, yeah, I don't think it's the most beautiful film cinematically ever, but it is the most beautiful a film has ever been shot. Period.
Yeah. My thesis statement is simpler, and it's one of, if you guys follow us on social or other things, you've heard me talk about it a little bit. This is the best movie of 2019. It's the best movie of the year.
Yeah.
It got a limited release in 2019, so technically is a 2019 movie. I thought about it a lot after watching it, because at first anytime you make that hyperbolic statement, the best of something, especially when there's recency bias involved, you really have to think. You have to think, okay, what am I saying this is better than? And I will say, I'll be honest, the biggest movie of the year that I have not yet seen is Parasite. And it's a movie that a lot of people have talked about as one of the best movies of all time. So
I loved Parasite.
And I have to say that I reserve the right to revise my statement after I watch Parasite if I'm blown away by it. But as of right now, I've seen all of the other movies that are really in contention that anyone has talked about as like the best. And this movie blows my mind completely. I didn't even know what I was getting into, and I saw this at a critic screening probably like a month ago now, 3-4 weeks ago or something like that. And he stands up at the beginning of the movie. They're walking, and you start to. It was 2 minutes into the movie, and I was with Roxy Stryer. We were at the same screening. And I remember I was getting ready to lean over to. I kept waiting for the shot to break, and I was going to wait for the shot to break, and I was going to lean over and go like, "Wow, what an amazing tracking shot!"
Right.
And after about 6 minutes, I was still waiting. And she leaned over and she was like, this tracking shot is unreal.
Right. Because it just doesn't stop.
And neither of us knew. Because as they're walking and they're going down into that trench at the beginning, these built trenches, they're walking down, passing all the soldiers, and you're like, this is all real. They built all this. This is everything here has to be.
And these are all actors that are all doing their thing on time. This is a timed out, choreographed dance, and you've got this camera that's on this track going backwards, and it's just incredible.
Yeah,
you watching it, and again, like the more that you know about how movies are made, it's just the more awestruck you are by watching this. And the other thing that Deakins does, and that Sam Mendes does in this, is they don't do the traditional camera tricks that you do to continue these one shots. You don't see him zoom in really close on something really quick or go behind a wall or a soldier walks right in front of him. Now, there are a couple of them throughout the movie where you're like, okay, thank God. Because there's almost moments where you're just like, will this shot please kind of end so I can kind of focus on the movie again?
I know. It's in a weird way, it's almost distracting.
It's almost distracting because it's so mesmerizing.
Totally. Yes, and I believe it's the best movie of the year ahead of all the other ones I've seen, just for the sheer purpose of what it's accomplishing. It's so incredible. It's so visually impressive. I found it to be beautifully acted. I thought it was really compelling.
And I also love seeing no names as stars, and you see Firth and Benedict on the billing.
Yeah,
and they're not really in the movie at all, which is just excellent.
There was a lot of actors like that. Richard Madden's like that. Mark Strong is like that. There's a bunch of people in this movie who they show up, and you're like, I guess you wanted to be a part of this guy's movie. So you take whatever role is given to you, but the movie's not even close to about you.
No, not at all. And like Mark Strong has such a distinct voice.
Yeah.
I think him and Firth have a more distinct voice than Cumberbatch.
Did you have the same situation with Strong where you hear his voice and you go, oh, that's Mark Strong.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
you see his face and you go, I knew it.
I knew it. Yes.
Immediately.
100%. As soon as you heard it. Yeah, so, I mean, those are our thesis statements. I don't actually think I agree with you on the best movie of the year.
Yeah.
I put it, I think maybe third or fourth.
Okay.
I put Parasite and Knives Out in front of it, and then I have to figure out between Joker, Ford, Ferrari, and maybe just those two.
Those are like the top. You're naming a lot of my top ones.
And it's also like Endgame. Where's Endgame? Still?
I know.
It's so hard. So we'll actually be talking about our top movies of 2019 over on the Action Guys later today.
Well, I wasn't sure if we were doing that this week or maybe the next week, but that's an episode that is coming very soon. I can guarantee that.
Okay.
But yes, we are so excited to be talking about 1917, and this movie blew my mind completely. So we're gonna get into the next part of the show here. We are moving over to fist pump moments. This is so awesome! This is unbelievable! I'm so excited to watch the rest of this movie right now. You can't even believe it. There's a bunch in this movie because there's like
different fist pump. I even have like a visual fist pump and then like a movie fist pump. You know what I mean?
Totally. Well, because what it is in this movie is like there's all these crazy things that happen that they're not exciting things. They're just like, I can't believe I'm seeing this in this movie right now things. And for me, I think the one where I felt so riveted and I was so just like, wow, what am I watching? What I'm watching right now is special. It's when they're down in the mine and that explosion happens and his buddy is buried.
Yeah.
And he gets up and he's covered in dust and he can't see anything and he realizes that it's collapsing and they're running and he has him do the jump
like, hold on,
blind.
yeah, the
and he does it.
jump.
And as that is happening, you're just like, you are riveted. I mean, when that is happening, I was like, this is so crazy.
I was like sweating. I was like gripping the seat, just like, what is going to happen? I was like, did the guy already die? Did he die this early? It's war.
My jaw was dropped. I mean, that scene completely blew me away.
And then again, you sit there and you think about technically how the hell they did this, because there's like, it feels like the world is crumbling around you. And then you realize there's probably like 50 people behind this catastrophe that's happening.
Yeah.
The camera guy, all the ops, all the units, everyone, the director is hanging out right here. And you're like, just the set design and it crumbling around you it was insane. Absolutely insane. I love that moment. I don't even think I could fist pump during it because I was so nervous.
Yeah, it was so. Looking back on it, it's the one for me that comes to mind that is just like, wow.
Yeah,
straight up wow.
Yeah, I mean there's a few of them. I think, God, it's tough. So I have two, and I'll do my visual one. The visual one for me was the plane crashing into the barn, coming up over the hill, and
Crazy,
like charging
right
at them. Yeah, because I kind of expected it to happen.
Yeah,
but then it happened, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is it!" It was horrifying.
And the way you see it is the way it would feel in real life. You're like, watching this thing from a distance. Down. You're like over by this barn. You're like, "Oh, there's this. Well, it's one of our guys. They're fighting up there, and then it's coming towards you." And you're like,
dogfight. Yeah,
this is moving This is moving too fast. I can't get out of the way. It's moving too fast.
And then you see it go down. And it goes out of your sight line, and then all of a sudden it's just there. It's just like 10 feet away, it feels like, or 100 feet away, and so that, for me, I was just like, oh my God. But my actual fist pump, it actually goes hand in hand with my favorite line, because there's not a lot of words spoken in this movie, and there's not, and most of them are just kind of straight down the barrel, because it's a war movie with two young men. But I did love the moment where, this guy, Will, he's like basically getting drug on this death sentence, it feels like. And they're just about to get started. They're just about to go into no man's land, essentially, where the German, front line is. And everyone's, giving them all this crap, these kids are going to die. What are you doing? And he's like, all right, well, good luck. See you later.
Yeah.
And they're just about to go up, and he stops him. And he goes, age before beauty. And I was just like, yes! Because first of all, here we go. They're about to do this. We've set up the preamble, all the exposition's there. Now they're going to go and start the mission. But it's also, for me, it gave me the fist bump because it was like, damn, dude, even through all this, even going to essentially help your brother out because you're the idiot that they picked and I'm your friend and now it makes me the idiot that they picked.
Right.
He's still like, I got your back.
Right.
I'm going to do this. I've been in war before. I've been in battle before. He's clearly the older one. So that, for me, when he says that, I was just like, God, it's, one of those moments in movies you're like, this is a good person.
Yeah, right.
He's a good guy.
Totally. And I think when you feel that kind of support, brotherhood, it's really palpable. It's really meaningful.
Yeah.
It's really meaningful. And I think it's probably one of the things about war movies and sports movies that there's such a parallel. And there's also especially if you're like a younger man, and you've played sports or you've recently had those kinds of relationships, like it's very meaningful. I think the two of them going, it's really cool. So we can talk a little bit about star profiles here. So Dean Charles Chapman he's the more famous of the two, specifically because he played Tommen in Game of Thrones. He's one of the sons, and he's obviously that show being so big the last few years. I didn't even recognize him though. It's the funny part. I've seen Game of Thrones. He doesn't really look the same.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I have no idea.
Yeah, at the end of it, when I looked him up, I was like, oh, he's Tommen? Like, that's crazy, right? So, and then George McKay, again, you look at what these guys have done. The King, Blinded by the Light, The Commuter. I mean, these are real movies that Dean is in. The Commuter is the Liam Neeson film from a couple of years ago.
I actually do recognize Dean Charles Chapman.
Yeah. And Blinded by the Light was the musical from this year. That's the Springsteen one?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, people like that movie a lot. It sounds like Ryan Nielsen up in the booth. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm voice to God. Sorry to chime in like that, but yes, that is the Springsteen movie from last year.
Are you a fan of that movie?
Massive fan. Massive Springsteen fan myself.
A lot of people like that movie a lot. And then
the Boss. Did you see 1917?
No, I haven't
Oh,
yet.
you
I've seen
haven't
everything
yet.
but that movie. That's the one I have to
we're
check
going
off
to
the
spoil
list.
some stuff for you here.
We're going to ruin it for you, man.
The King, which is the Netflix film with Timothée Chalamet and Joel Edgerton, which a lot of people really liked. And is Pattinson in that movie also?
Yes, he plays the Dauphin of France.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's crazy in it.
That's the kind of movie that I'm sure this year is going to be a thing in Schmodown. I think the Netflix films this year are going to finally be a thing.
You think it's going to break through?
Well, I mean, we're discussing it backstage, behind the scenes at the moment. Like, that's the thing we're talking about. Some of the rules changes.
I think you have to give people a year to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just implement it in, I think you announce it for 2021.
Yeah.
Because there's too much to go watch.
I think what we would have to say is the ones that have theatrical release, like the ones that are are contenders that are up for awards. Like a movie like Roma, for instance. It feels like pretty unfair to not be able to include Roma.
Definitely, I just think that I personally just think if you're going to include them, you got to give competitors time.
Yeah, it's brutal because there's so much. There's so many of them. But
right, and what qualifies because there's
exactly.
Do one on
Triple Frontier and Bright. Those are like movies that you're like, okay, those were big billboard movies, but you talk to me about because what do you do about a movie like Always Be My Maybe?
Right, that's what I mean.
That's a movie that I feel like way more people saw Always Be My Maybe than The King, but The King has a way bigger cast.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know, man. And then lastly, we have Colin Firth, Mary Poppins Returns in 2018, The Command in 2018, and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again in 2018. I thought these guys killed it. Yeah, I really do. I think they were really, really well cast, and they were just unrecognizable enough with enough experience to hold or carry the film.
Yeah.
I was big fans of them.
It's amazing how when you have a movie like this, you can one of my heroes, Bill Simmons, always does is he likes to compare things to sports. Like he'll relate pop culture and movies and stuff to sports. And if you look at the construction of a movie like this, it's like, all right, if Sam Mendes is the coach, if he's your Popovich, your Belichick, and you have these rookies, the George McKay and the Dean Charles Chapmans of the world who need to come in here and they need to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But you still need the veterans. You still need 38-year-old LeBron James on the team. And so that's where you have the Colin Firth and the Benedict
Benedict and the Mark.
And they have 5 minutes or 6 minutes, but they come in for 5-6 minutes and they put up like 14 and like 4 assists or something like that.
Right. And you're
like 3 threes. Like they need to come in and they need to have a big few minutes because that's how this movie gets sold. That's how people, you see the trailer for the movie.
And it just gives, you see the trailer for the movie and they put in Cumberbatch and Firth.
Right. Because if they don't,
it's not as legitimate.
You and I care a lot because we like Sam Mendes. We think it looks amazing. But a lot of people, if they don't see a couple stars they recognize, it's funny. I was just listening to a podcast talking about Dunkirk, and they say something similar. Like a lot of kind of younger, unrecognizable actors in a lot of the main roles, but it's rounded out with the Tom Hardy, the Cillian Murphy, the Mark Rylance. These people who have done big things these last couple years.
Heavy hitters in Hollywood, if you will. So I actually think this is an interesting moment to talk about Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes is most famous for, American Beauty. That was the one. It was the first movie he ever directed. And, he still went on to do other good things like Revolutionary Road, We Love Road to Perdition, Spectre, Skyfall.
Away We Go, Jarhead.
But none of them were quite on the same level as American Beauty. Whereas this movie is in the same boat of being like, it could just win Best Picture.
I think it probably will.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's something that I almost wonder if we should have that conversation instead, because I saw people asking in the chat, what awards do you think this will win or be nominated for at the Oscars? Now, obviously, we assume and cinematography feels like almost a no-brainer.
That's a lock, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't see the world watching this movie and not giving it the Deakins. I mean, it's one of the most amazing visual things I've ever seen happen in a movie.
And he is just one of the most amazing things to happen to movies visually, period.
Yeah, and I think the Golden Globes were last night. We can talk a little bit about some of the winners if you want to pull up.
Yeah, I have them right here.
The winners here, because this movie won Best Motion Picture Drama.
Yep.
Which is the crown jewel kind of the Golden Globes in terms of the movie awards. Obviously, the comedy and musical awards tend to have a little bit less weight, and same can be said for the dramatic actor and actresses. And Mendes won director as well. So it really got the big awards, the ones that you expect the movie to get. And it does feel like the kind of movie that the Academy is very comfortable giving awards to, because it's a war movie, which is traditional. That's a category that the Academy is usually pretty, in awe of. A lot of the voters, they're going to connect less to a movie like a Joker. They're not going to, and I think Marriage Story is kind of that's the kind of movie I could see getting pretty high, but it doesn't feel quite spectacular enough to make the impact that this one makes.
I don't think so. I mean, I can't believe that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won Best Screenplay.
That's going to be to me, it's the toss-up for...
It's crazy to me.
Because that won Best Comedy or Musical, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's 1917 or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feel like the front runners for Best Picture right now. That feels like where... That's what I'm expecting.
What did you say? Sorry?
It feels like the front runners for Best Picture are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and 1917. Those are the two movies it seems... And that's obviously based on the Golden Globes winning, but that's... To me, that would be the pretty clear. The only other movie that I can think of that's in the conversation, but it won't win, would be Parasite. It will get nominated, but it won't win Best Picture.
It just feels crazy for me for Parasite to lose Best Screenplay to Quentin Tarantino writing a story that basically did happen and then he changes the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, too, because you and I are not the biggest fans of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We liked it. I think we both liked it a lot. I really enjoyed that movie. I
liked it. It was fine.
Yeah. And in retrospect, it has a lot of memorable scenes. I kind of feel like I want to watch it again.
I do need to watch it again. Definitely.
It definitely feels like I don't remember it as fondly as like maybe I could,
as everyone else does,
I guess. I mean, it has so many moments that you and I both loved, right? Like,
but none of them were actually like, I didn't feel, this movie made me feel certain ways through almost the entire thing.
Right.
Whereas Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't make me feel that ever. There was just like, oh, this is a good scene. Oh, Leo's funny when he's drunk. Oh, Brad Pitt's cool. Oh, I like watching him throw Bruce Lee into a car, even though Bruce Lee was depicted very oddly. Like, the whole thing is just like fine enough. But anyway, so
there's a lot of humor, like that stuff at the end when the guy's holding the gun on him, he's like, "I'm the devil," and when Brad Pitt's like, "Nah, I was dumber than that.
It was dumber than that,
Rex."
So I think another director that's actually kind of in the exact same boat as Sam Mendes, is M. Night Shyamalan.
I would agree.
So you think about The Sixth Sense and what that was and kind of shook the world. And then he had a few movies in there that a lot of people liked, a lot of people didn't like.
Incidentally, The Sixth Sense, same year.
Yeah.
They came out, they both basically broke onto the scene the same year.
And they both were it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Look at these guys, look at the movies. You blew my mind, in different ways, obviously. And then they've got the weird ones in there, like Lady in the Water and, things like that. And,
Avatar,
for us,
The Last Airbender.
Yeah, Last Airbender. For us, it's like Spectre with Sam Mendes. We both really, really didn't like Spectre.
Yeah, yep.
But now with Split and
Glass.
Glass, and then obviously 1917, it does feel like these guys are just right back in it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the impact of 1970. Like it feels like Shyamalan dropped off a lot harder and has climbed back some, but not quite in the same way. Because it also feels like the funny part is like people don't think of Sam Mendes' career dropping off in the same way that we do. Right. Like Shyamalan's made some real stinkers, like really bad movies. The worst movie that Sam Mendes has ever made is probably Spectre. Like all the other movies that we would consider to be subpar, like Jarhead, Revolutionary Road, even for us Skyfall, we're not the biggest fans of.
Yeah.
None of those movies are outright bad. I think Spectre's pretty
I
bad.
like Skyfall. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Skyfall's pretty good. Like,
I think Spectre's bad.
yeah, I think it's the only one.
Yeah.
I think Spectre's outright bad. But I think the rest of the stuff Mendes has done, because he has such a visual touch, he's so aware of putting his movie together in a way that's visually pleasing. I don't think he has the like Shyamalan wants to take chances in a different way. He like swings for the fences on every movie he makes. And if it works really well. But if it doesn't, then you end up with Lady in the Water or and then he started like when he started directing movies that weren't his movies, like when he did After Earth.
Right.
That's a good indicator of like we're in a different class now.
So, do you think that these guys? Let's start with Mendes. You think he's just? I mean, it feels like he never really actually left. But do you feel like he's back in the same? I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah. I mean, he's still getting the biggest movies in the world.
If you ask me after Spectre comes out, which we were doing the show at the time, we were supposed to cover Spectre that week, and we didn't. We audibled and we covered Casino Royale instead because Spectre was
both really
bad.
didn't like Spectre. Yeah.
If you had asked me in 2015, do you think Sam Mendes is one of the 10 best working directors right now in 2015?
No
my
way in
answer is
hell.
definitely no.
Do you think he is now?
If you ask me right now, I think my answer is yes.
Really?
And I think my answer is yes because the touch that it takes to make a movie like this in the way that he just made is such a reminder and an indicator of the quality he's able to put together. I mean, maybe he's outside the top 10. I can't watch this movie and really think that, considering he won Best Picture in '99, and then this is going to win Best Picture this year, I'm pretty sure.
And American Beauty shot really, really well.
Gorgeous.
It's a very beautiful film. Do you think that without Deakins, this movie is even close to as good?
Well, it's hard to know because,
Right.
I mean, Deakins is amazing, but if you give another amazing cinematographer the same premise, we're going to shoot this movie, it's not so much that, because, I mean, Deakins' scenes are incredible. It's like they look amazing, but also it's the premise of the movie that makes it so impressive. I think there's a lot of cinematographers that could have pulled it off with him. I mean, not a lot, but
Right. But
more
the top
than one.
5 or whatever could probably have pulled it off if they had the same. But then that also becomes a conversation that we don't really know a lot about, which is the conversation between Sam and Deakins about like, oh, I want this movie to be a one shot, and then Deakins is like, okay, I'm gonna make this work. Or if it's like Sam Mendes is like, I want this to be a one shot. Here's the storyboards. Here's the shot. This is
Yeah,
what I want.
right.
And then Deakins is like, I can do that.
Yeah, right.
I just wonder which one it is. So we'll get into production development. We'll breeze through it a little bit. I think the biggest thing here to talk about is that Mendes, he says at the very end of the movie, this is in dedication to his grandfather who told him these stories that inspired him to write this movie. He basically just said it's the story of a messenger who has a message to carry, and that's all I can say. It lodged with me as a child, the story or this fragment, and I've obviously enlarged it significantly, but it has that at its core. And I think what was so fascinating about the story of this movie is 1,600 soldiers in the grand scheme of things is nothing, right? Like
Right.
when you talk about world wars, 1,600 soldiers is very, very small.
hundreds of thousands, millions of people dead.
Right. And obviously, I don't think that it's a small number in my mind, but 1,600 in the grand scheme of things during war feels kind of small. And I thought what was so interesting about the end of this movie, and I think that gave it even more legitimacy, was Cumberbatch basically telling him to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's literally the words he uses at the end of the movie after he's saved probably 1,300 people at that point, maybe 12.
Yeah.
And he does this mission all on his own. And it's just like, and then it's just like, who are you again? I don't care. Get the fuck out of here. You're interrupting my meeting now.
Right.
I'm a general or a captain. You don't belong here. And it's so crazy that after this huge journey, it's just like, all right, thanks. On to the next one.
Right. It's like you went through this life-changing, amazing journey where you almost died and you risked everything to save all these people. And you lost your brother here, not your brother, but you lost your friend here, whose brother it was in the first place. You continued on the mission. We probably still lost 200 or 300 people because you weren't quite fast enough. And I don't care. Fuck off.
And I need to move on.
Now we'll see what's next.
Yep. And I love that because it's just true. It's just super authentic.
Right.
And I thought that kind of also just played into what was so fascinating about like that line that Mendes wrote is just like, this is just a story that a grandpa told a kid.
Right.
And for some reason, this kid actually became Sam Mendes so he could tell this story. But otherwise, none of us would have ever known about this.
It didn't quite have the same reality-grabbing audacity as Baldwin saying, you know how we're going to win this war?
I'm going to win this war.
Them.
That movie was wonderful. Just a wonderful
Pearl Harbor.
film. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to keep talking about Sam Mendes. We kind of gave you a whole breakdown on his career already. Should we play another game before we get into this box office stuff or no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? What was the other one?
I do have another stat for you guys real quick.
Yeah?
Just in case you want to know.
Yes.
Just so the past 10 years, Golden Globes Best Picture winners for drama, 5 out of the 10 have gone on to win Best Picture at the Oscars.
How about, did you look at the comedy or musical
Comedy
winners?
musical, 2 out of the 10 have gone. So that's a total of
7 of 10.
So 7 out of 10. The only movie really that I can see, I mean, unless we're talking about like an upset here where like Marriage Story or Parasite gets it or something, but it feels like to me it would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because of the Hollywood loving, the self-referential Hollywood stuff, the star power. That's the movie that could just win over this because this is a stuffy war film for a lot of people, even though it's amazing.
So should be Knives Out.
Yeah. I mean, I love Knives Out. That's the funniest part about this conversation. It's so hard is like, it's just, I don't know what it is about a genre movie that's so hard for a genre movie to feel like it jumps into that same meaningful conversation for me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact to me that it wasn't even nominated for screenplay at the Globes is crazy to me because I think it's so well written, and funny, and clever.
I agree.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. What were you going to say? You were like, oh, the other game?
The other game we're going to do is movies that blew our mind.
Yeah.
Because this movie did
visually
blow
blew
my mind visually. So I think we're going to maybe cite 3 movies each that on first watch, like jaw-dropping, could not believe it. One of the more amazing experiences I've ever had watching a movie. I'll just jump in first with one that I think is somewhat predictable, but it was mind-blowing, and that's Avatar.
Yeah.
And I think not because I like Avatar that much. We've covered it on the show. You guys all remember some of the stuff we said about it.
Best thing about it, Stephen Lang.
Yeah. Stephen Lang and his sweet scar.
Yeah, so awesome.
But it's just amazing. Like when you saw it in theaters on screen, it was one of those things that you knew that something special had happened. Mm-hmm. It's not even like a movie that I really have any intention of ever rewatching, and I'm pretty positive that Avatar 2, James Cameron thinks is going to dethrone Endgame, is going to be one of the biggest flops in the history of film.
You think so? You think it's going to happen?
I think that Avatar 2 is going to lose a lot of money. I think that movie is going to make like $700 million worldwide or something.
Avatar was just not very good.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. Like, when we went back and rewatched it, I just didn't enjoy it. But visually, I still remember being in the theater and just being blown away.
Yeah.
It was mesmerizing. It was amazing. And obviously, the 3D, seeing real 3D for the first time was just crazy. So I'm going to hop in with... I think I'm going to hop in with one of my true classic favorites, and that's The Fountain.
Oh.
The Fountain is a movie. It's Rachel Weisz and our boy, Huge, directed by Aronofsky.
Yep.
And Aronofsky, he did a lot of really, really cool stuff with water under microscopes to replicate what space looks like.
Yeah.
And it was just... I just still to this day, when you go back and watch it, it is just... I mean, I love the movie, but visually, it blows your mind.
Yeah.
It really does, and that's one that has really, truly stuck with me. I fell in love with it in college, and it's still to this day, I'm just like, visually, boom, first thing that pops in my head.
Yeah, I mean, I love The Fountain. That movie never comes up. Nobody ever talks about this movie.
No one does.
This is a classic example of a movie where it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, so he's a director who people are still talking about today. So in our lifetime, he made movies that were legit enough that like this is on the radar of film fans. But when you talk about why it's so hard to have real awareness of film history, there are directors like Aronofsky, people who had really good runs of 3 or 4 movies from the 60s and 70s and 80s whose names we don't even know.
Yeah.
And because The Fountain's not his best movie or his second or even his third best movie, it's somewhere in that like 4th or 5th range. A lot of people will never watch it.
Right.
Time will go on and no one will ever remember this movie happened, which is so bizarre and so effed up to me. I can't believe that.
And also, like, when it came out and the star power of all 3 of them, it was a pretty good moment for all of them. I mean, none of them are as famous. I mean, Hugh Jackman's the most famous that he's probably ever going to be right now.
Yeah.
But like Aronofsky, Hugh, and Rachel Weisz were all big at the time. So really surprised that people don't talk about that movie more. But visually, that is my first number. That's my first pick.
Like if you go and talk about like William Friedkin, who made like French Connection in 71 and then he made The Exorcist in 73, back to back. His next movie is a movie called Sorcerer with, I think it's got Roy Scheider from Jaws. no one will ever talk about the movie Sorcerer.
right. 'Cause
You've
if
probably
you-
never heard of it, right? I've never seen it.
Nope, never heard of it.
I like remember somebody the other day told me how good it was, and I was like, oh wow, this was Friedkin's next movie after The Exorcist and Best Picture French Connection. And that's a movie that will like basically never come up. And I think that just blows my mind. So The Fountain feels that way to me.
Yeah.
My next one's gonna be The Matrix. That's
That's
you
a good
know,
one.
another 99 film. We're talking about Sixth Sense. We're talking about American Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie that the trailer blew my mind, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, this movie, when it came out, bullet time, and the way the camera captures happened, and all that stuff, it was so mesmerizing and so cool and so unbelievable to watch. The visual look of so many, the shots of all the like the people being like harvested and all that, which is so funny because The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions don't have any of that. Like they're not impressive movies at all. It's just the difference of when you do something and it's impressive at the time, how impactful it can be. The combination of this movie being visually impressive, but also a good movie, you know?
Yeah.
Just a couple years later.
Well, that's what I feel like 1917 is to Avatar.
Yeah.
You talk about something that's kind of innovative, and yes, there have been other movies that are one shot, but not quite like this. Birdman didn't feel this way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that the story in this one is exponentially more gripping and more riveting than what you got with Avatar. So I love The Matrix. That would be on my list if it wasn't on yours. Next up, I'm actually going to go to a movie that I've only seen once, but I do remember watching it and being stunned by it, and that was Gravity.
Yeah.
It was so cool. The shots you get from space down to Earth, the explosions going on, them floating around. It just you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
Which is that even possible in a space movie to feel like you're there?
Yeah, maybe
but
not.
You really did.
Yeah.
And I think that is a movie that is just beautiful. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. You're like, how the hell did you get these shots?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. I think the one I would go with next, well, that's a really good one. I think I'll actually go a little more down the middle, and I'm just gonna say it's The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Because with The Dark Knight, what I remember feeling, I mean, Nolan is, pretty impressive. I think you could pick, there's 5 Nolan movies you probably could pick on this list.
Yeah.
If you told me
Interstellar or
Inception,
Inception.
Interstellar, I think they all have a lot going on. But even Dark Knight Rises is just the opening shot. But Dark Knight, from the minute the movie opens, you have this bank robbery and these big IMAX camera shots. And you have stuff like him jumping off the building in Hong Kong. And you have all these incredible shots in that movie. You have the semi-flipping. I mean, the look and the color and the feel of this movie and the size and the scope of so many of these shots, they blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw this movie and I thought about this movie for, what felt like months and months and months afterwards. And I saw it twice in theaters, I remember, and just it doesn't feel the same way when I watch it now, but it also doesn't feel that far from it.
Yeah, I mean, every shot in that movie is amazing. And you're talking about like a comic book movie that just kills it.
Yeah.
For me, I almost just want to mention all the other movies that like we were talking about that could be on this list. I mean, even Jurassic Park. When we watched Jurassic Park, we were blown away by it. Mad Max, Interstellar, as you just mentioned. How about all of the Lord of the Rings movies?
Yeah.
Like it's been 20 years, but how can you forget? If I had to pick one more, though, I'd probably go Sunshine.
Yeah,
I love
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Love Sunshine.
And, so...
What about Endgame?
Yeah.
I mean, Endgame, to see when the portals open and all the heroes come out, right? Like, how does that not blow your mind?
I mean, yeah, I know. But those are our 3 each. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know in the chat. We got people saying La La Land, Tron Legacy, Blade Runner 2049. Someone else said OG Jurassic Park, Terminator 2. I mean, the Water Planet and Interstellar.
So incredible.
So crazy.
I got to go rewatch 2049 at some point.
I know.
That feels like a movie that, has aged in my mind and should not have aged quite as much because it's such an impressive film for so many people.
Yeah. So we're actually going to probably skip over box office just because the movie isn't officially released all over the world or internationally, globally, even all over here in the States. But what we can talk about is it's got an 8.6 on IMDb, which is very, very high. It puts it at, is it ranked? I'm trying to see if it's ranked
8.6 should put it in the top 250.
Yeah, but maybe not yet because it's not officially released for everyone. But yeah, 8.6 on IMDb, which is excellent. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give this movie closer to a 9 plus. I think. I mean, there's parts of me that probably just give this movie a perfect 10. Honestly, the more I think about it, it's always so hard when you see a new movie for the first time to rank it properly.
Yeah.
Like I tend to have the recency bias thing. And when you and I talked about our best movies of the decade, we didn't put any 2019 films because the recency bias is just too hard to rank them. It's too hard to compare movies. I think other people are more capable of doing it. I like to give it some time, but I would really have to think about what about this movie is less than perfect for me.
Well, yeah, I was actually just going to ask you that. What about this movie? Where does it fall apart for you? And I think for me, it's, and this is again like it's tough. It's like a catch-22 because I think the worst part of the movie is the character development.
Yeah.
But I think that's on purpose.
Yeah.
These are nameless, faceless soldiers, and for the most part, you don't really know a whole lot about each other. You don't talk about each other.
Yeah.
You don't care about each other's lives. I mean, at the very end of this movie, you see that the person you've been following for the whole time that you think is like 17 has a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And he's already been to war before. He's already won a medal. You
Yeah.
know, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that for me, I think was maybe the only thing about the movie that maybe left me a little disconnected. But I also think it was intentional, so it's hard to hate on it.
Yeah, I don't really know. I really don't know what I think the things that would take away from this movie would be. I'd want to watch it again and really watch it sort of with that fine-tooth comb. I really don't know. I think it started to feel a little slow in the middle of the movie, I think, for me, around the time that he meets the French woman with her kid. That's when the movie starts to feel a little slow, which is like the third act. It's dragging a little, but I mean, again, that's pretty hard to avoid with most movies you love. Like almost every great movie I can think of, I could point to a spot that it feels like it slows down.
And that's also intentional. Again, like both these moments that we're talking about, that we're trying to find something wrong with this movie, are intentional moments because that moment in the movie lets you breathe. You need it. I mean, I remember sitting in the theater, and when he would take a breath and when things would calm down, you could audibly hear the theater take a breath.
Yeah.
And shift and like eat their popcorn and like talk to one another, you know. So I think those are both, you know, super intentional. And that's why this movie is basically perfect. And apparently it needs 25,000 votes.
That's what I was saying. And Philip A. Demick here says, Twister is mind-blowing in the theater. It's blah at home. Well, I do remember seeing Twister in the theater. Jan de Bont.
You know the name
Paxton.
of the device? That's a question. Showdown question.
The name of the device?
Yeah.
I mean, Dorothy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done. So it's got a 90% on the tomato meter, 95% by the audience. Do you have a favorite line from the movie?
You know, I was trying to remember. The hardest thing about favorite line when we see new movies is that I don't like bringing out my phone and I don't bring a notepad. So there's often, I don't have a favorite line usually with these movies because time passes. But I like when he acknowledges that he put his hand through a dead guy. I'm trying to remember what he says.
He's like, I put my hand through a German.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Something like that. That was one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, actually. That he did that because he cuts his hand and then he puts it in the dead guy.
Everyone was like, in the theater, everyone did that.
What I think the reason I like it so much is that you watch that and you're like, yeah, I can imagine that happening.
100%.
Like you cut your hand because like it's this dirty battlefield, everything's sharp and rusty, and there's this dead guy and he's kind of decomposed, and you slip and your hand goes in him, and you're just
like, oh God, what did I just get? What did I get? It just doesn't. What if I don't get shot? Then I'm gonna get killed by this thing. You know, like that's what I thought. Dude, and then the bodies, all the bodies that had piled up at the end of the movie
when he's crawling over them out of the water,
and you think about that, and you're like, that just makes sense. Of course. Thousands of people have fallen into this river when they've died or been thrown into the river to be killed, and they just pile up. No one cleans up shit during war. Yeah.
So crazy. I know, all these floating, and he's just crawling over them. Yeah, I mean, this movie had some visual stuff that pretty hard to unsee.
Yeah, I think, you know, another one of those visuals to talk about is what happens to the kid.
Yeah.
When you know, so the plane crash happens, and again, this is a big time spoiler. So Ryan, if you even want to take your headphones off for like a minute, you could.
Got it.
When you see the plane crash and the German, they're pulling him out, and he's like, "No, he does. He needs help. He needs water." You're like, "Oh no, don't do it, dude."
Because you're like, you know what's gonna happen.
You know what's gonna happen, and the one guy runs away, and you're like, "Oh God, they're not focusing." And then you hear the scream, and you turn and you see, and you even saw the knife on the soldier when they pulled him out.
It's the Saving Private Ryan up a moment.
It is, and like, dude, the reason I say this visually is because you see it happen. And then, you know, he shoots the German, and they're sitting there, and he's kind of holding him, and you see the blood pouring out of him. And they do such a good job of how much blood is coming out of him. Because you, as an adult and as a person that watches movies, you're like, there's no way. Well, there's actually no way.
Did you, when he gets stabbed, did you think he was going to survive?
For a second, I really did.
Yeah.
At very first, when he like puts pressure on the wound, it really did. But then, like I'm saying, visually, it stuck with me because I remember just watching the blood pour out of him. Like I was like you talk about like subtitles taking you off the movie. I was just staring at his stomach, like not paying any attention to what they were saying, and just watching that pour out. And I was like, he just can't.
It's such a sad death.
It is.
It's such a sad death. When he says like, "Hold," what does he say? "Don't leave me." Like, hold my hand or something.
Yeah, he's like, and he's also like, he says, "Talk to me,
Talk to me. That's what, oh my god. When he says "talk to me," I started crying. I remember.
Yeah,
God, that's so sad.
and it's so well done, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. And honestly, you think because it's his brother that he's going to be the one that's going to survive, and Will has already got the mind crashes on him. So you think anyway. So
I know.
God, yeah,
So sad.
so sad.
So anyway, guys, there are 3 action movie categories. I don't really think we have to dignify the question.
No, this movie's totally legitimate.
Totally legitimate. But in case you guys are wondering, the last thing we do on the show is called The Pitch. Nice. So we don't have a movie for next week yet.
No, we don't.
We have a series of discussions that are going to happen today and this week to kind of plan out our next the next little sort of series here on Action Movie Anatomy is going to be we're going to change days. We have to figure out the day that it's going to work. We'll be announcing that very soon. The best way to get that information is to follow us on Twitter at AMA Podcast. No, at Team Action Show.
There you go.
At Team Action Show, or you can follow either of us personally. They'll all get announced there. So make sure you pay attention. But I have a feeling next week is going to be some kind of like fun older movie.
Yeah, I think we should do a throwback. It feels like we should go back in time to the movies that kind of made the show what it is.
And maybe Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
Yeah, something sweet like that.
Yes.
That's a good one. I love that one. God, at the beginning of that movie, they chop off guys' fingers with a helicopter door shutting.
Really?
It's cool.
I don't remember that
Maybe
one.
that's actually at the end. I think it's the end.
Could be.
And of course, we do have a bunch of generals and 5-star generals to shout out in the Action Army. Remember, patreon.com/Team Action to go and sign up. We love hanging out with our generals. We do it all the time. We do it a few times a week. We do Google Hangouts, but we actually have so many generals now. We need to figure out another way to voice chat with over 10 people at a time.
A better system, if you will.
So if you guys know of a better voice chat program that can hold over 10 people, just throw it in the chat really quickly and go become a general or at least a patron at patreon.com/Team Action. These are our friends. We talk to them more than our family. So we spent a long time with them after our stream last night. And let's give them some love.
Yeah, so we're going to a couple quick shout outs to the 5-star generals in the Action Army. That is the highest honor in the Action Army, is to be a 5-star general. It was a club originally created by Miss Movies Brianne Chandler. And that 5-star general tier includes Mac Ryan, John Getz, Jake Iacovetta, Lucas and Alex Shashik, that's a household generalship, and Paul Denuzio, or PLD as he's called. Big salute to our 5 stars.
5 stars.
And the generals in the Action Army, the second tier and the other highest honor in the Action Army. Big general shout outs here: Andrew Hayes, John Patterson, Jake Iacovetta, who's actually a 5-star. I'll also shout him out anyway. John Patterson, Jake Iacovetta, Andrew Hayes, Kelsey Kirkland, Cody Seal, AJ Lancaster, Sari Laman Maki, Jeremiah Morris, Mike Deacon, and Jason Lasky, as well as Danny Joyce, Liam Gilpin, and Oscar Romo. Those are going to be the generals in the Action Army. So thank you guys all so much for your support. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.